My name is Mo Hemmings, and I'm the Community Outreach Manager for the Atlanta Botanical Garden. And today, we're going to be talking about container gardens. So first, why container gardens? Container gardens are one of the best ways that you can grow food for yourself in a simple, easy manner. You can put as many things as you want in your container based off of the size. The bigger, the better. And you can move it around, relocate it, and repurpose it. So if you don't have a growing space at home, a container is a great way that you can grow healthy, fresh fruit for yourself and your community. Today we're going to be planting in a food-safe plastic container, but it's only one of the great ways that you can grow. Behind me, we have other types of containers also growing foods. Again, the bigger the container, the more that you can do. Why are we choosing a food-safe bucket? Because it is plastic and we want to make sure that when things are leaching, it's not going to be leaching into the root zone of things that we're then putting into our body. So we want to just be mindful of whatever container that we're using is clean, and it also has drainage holes. Now the drainage holes are really important for the plants that we're putting into our pots. By putting the drainage holes, we make sure that when our roots are watered, it has a place to run out and it doesn't sit in wet, moist soil. Sitting in the wet, moist soil, of course, can lead to other issues such as rotting of the roots or bacterial fungal issues. So now that we know what our container is all about, why don't we talk about our potting soil? So potting soil, you can either make your own using peat moss and coconut coir, something that again drains really well, or you can purchase potting soil that is pre-bagged. Now this potting soil, whenever you want to make sure you get potting soil and not garden soil or straight compost, because you want something that again drains really well. Whenever I purchase these items, I always look for OMRI listed items. OMRI listing is a government regulated program that makes sure that it is organically processed. Think about it this way. When you go to the grocery store and you see things that are listed as USDA organic, it's the same idea. That's for food, and OMRI is for non-organic things, non-food. And OMRI is for non-food things that are organic. So things like chemicals, potting soil, even your plants can all be OMRI listed. Now, when we are planting our plants, we want to make sure that they have a pretty healthy root system. We want to see roots going all the way down and around our plants. Why? Because whenever we're doing container gardens, we want to know that root depth is better than root volume. Whenever you are selecting plants, you want to make sure that you try to set up things that are named dwarf or compact or listed for growing well in containers. How do you know? We want to check our labels. If you look on this label here, it literally says grows well in containers. When you're looking at the variety, you want to look for words like compact, dwarf, patio. Those are all clues to tell you that these plants will be good producers in a small growing space like your container. So now let's plant our container. You want to fill your container most of the way up. Whenever I plant a container, I always try to work with wet material. So this is a pre-moistened wet soil. You know it's pre-moistened because when you squeeze it, you have some of the soil sticking onto your hand. And that's what you want when you're testing your soil to make sure that it is moist enough. Once you've got your container filled to just about 2 inches below the very top, you're going to want to place your plants still in their pots, to get a sense of space. Today, we're going to be planting winter crops, but this will work well for any kind of spring, summer, any food edible crops. We've got our Swiss chard here, a nice lettuce, a parsley, and we also have violas, a lovely edible flower. The reason you space them out before you plant them is just to make sure you have enough plants for your growing space. taking in consideration that these will eventually grow. So we like that. We've got our Swiss chard in the front, knowing it's going to grow up next to the lovely leafy Bibb lettuce, and then our parsley, which will be more of a compact dwarf right in that pot. Now that we've got everything placed, let's go ahead and plant. And what's nice is you can just set your plants right on top of that soil when you do it this way. And we're going to plant our violas. Now the violas have a smaller root zone, so we're not going to plant them directly right now. I'm going to take our pot and fill in right around. Now this is a new container. If you are using a container that you've had before, you want to make sure that you clear out the old roots and plants from that first container. You don't want to leave anything behind that could cause issue for your next plant. All right. Now that we've got a good layer on, we're going to plant our violas. And our planting of the violas, since they won't get very big, are going to be very close to each other. Once you've got all your plants in, you want to make sure that you black fill all around them, up against the edge of the pot. And then the last thing I do is I tuck my edges. The reason that I tuck my edges is so that when I come in to water this container, everything floods to the side instead of flushes out, and the soil won't get washed out of my pot or from around my roots. Always, 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 even when you're working with moist soil, water in your plants when you're done. You want to water slowly so that the water stays in and around the root zone of your new plant babies. And once they're watered in, where does this container go? Well, you want to make sure you put it someplace where you can easily access water. I water my containers from another container, but if you have access to a hose or a water can that's right around, that's where you want to do. That way you don't forget and your plant babies can grow. Other tips and tricks include harvesting regularly. We're growing food to eat, so the more you harvest, the more it'll produce over and over again. Always make sure that you test your soil before you water. Again, the best way to do that, we'll clean our finger off, touch it, and there should be soil at the end of your finger or your hand. That's how you know your soil is moist enough. You don't want to overwater your plants because that will lead to rot and root issues and unhealthy plants. Now we've got our container planted. We want to put it in an area that has great sunlight, at least 6 hours during the summer and about 5 hours during the winter months, and grow happy, healthy plants.